This podcast is brought to you by iPlayHockey.ca. iPlay is the leading hockey insurance provider to coaches, camp instructors, spring and summer hockey leagues, and tournaments across Canada. If you need insurance for hockey, iPlay has you covered. iPlay also provides hockey players and coaches with a wide range of free tools, drills, and skills in their drill vault to enhance on-ice performance, and they provide crucial off-ice knowledge as well. So if you need insurance for a hockey team, league, or camp, or if you just want to teach your kids some new drills, head on over to iPlayHockey.ca and check out their new website.
What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to episode 285 of the Boys in the Booth podcast. Cody and Melbourne with you. Missing Abrams. He is currently on the road traveling as we are recording this, so he unfortunately wasn't able to join us, but that's okay. We've got his prediction of who's going to win the 2026 Stanley Cup Final. We now have that matchup, Chad. It all starts Tuesday night at Lenovo Center in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's the Stanley Cup Final between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes. We're going to get to that, but first, let's get into Core 4 stories. Haven't done it in a while. Looking forward to this one. Let's go.
Core 4.
Core 4.
Core 4.
Core 4.
Core 4.
Core 4.
Core 4 is
Core 4.
Core 4.
All right, Core 4 stories for episode 285 of the Boys in the Booth podcast. Haven't done a Core 4 in a while, Chad, because our episodes have just ran long with all the series we've been covering and following and predicting on and all of that. So doing a Core 4 would just add a bunch more time. So we haven't done it in a while for that reason. So it's good to pick it up again now that we're just down to one series, and hard to believe we're into the month of June here. So I've got our 4 items, of course, and then I've got a 5th and final one for an honorable mention as well. Okay. So let's get right into it here. Starting with some shots fired by Bruce Boudreau, the former head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. I don't know if you saw this, but this is courtesy of the Hockey Forever Instagram account that posts a lot of good stuff. And this is via the Fellowship of the Rink. So Boudreau had this to say on the Canucks' new management structure, which of course is the Twins. There we go. Daniel and Henrik Sedin as co-presidents of hockey ops and Ryan Johnson as the Canucks general manager. So he had this to say: I think those 3 guys are going to be so much better than to have Jim there and Patrick Allvin, who did whatever Jim wanted anyway. So it didn't really matter if Patrick was there or not. Man, you gotta love Bruce Boudreau. Like, he is the best, isn't he? And you know what? We've seen and we've read a lot about Jim Rutherford and kind of how he likes to operate. And I think this is pretty accurate.
Yeah, that's kind of awesome. Bruce, there it is again with the quotes, just pulling it from left field. Honestly, good for him. I don't know if he's going to work in the league anytime soon with comments like that about the outgoing management group in Vancouver. But you know what? Good for him for being honest and speaking his mind. So I don't mind that one bit. And you know, let's be real. We all kind of knew what was happening in Vancouver, and you know, there was a reason that they kind of mishandled everything when the JT Miller and Elias Pettersson and Bo Horvat and Quinn Hughes and that whole kind of thing, that whole falling out and the dominoes that followed. So yeah, I think Vancouver is in a great spot with their new management group, and old Bruce just from the top rope with the comments. I kind of love it.
I absolutely love it too. Bruce has never shied away from speaking his mind. And again, I don't expect him to work in the league again. Maybe could be in some sort of an advisor role with a team. I don't know if I see him in a coaching position anytime soon, but he got a raw deal in Vancouver, man. And good for him to, let the shots go out of the gun here. So gotta love it from Gabby for sure. All right. We mentioned a couple of different versions of the Canucks front office there. Let's go to the new look Toronto Maple Leafs front office, Chad. You had to know that this was going to come up in the Core 4 segment here. So the Maple Leafs making a couple of big hires to their front office, namely Judd Brackett coming over from the Minnesota Wild, a highly respected person in hockey circles, longtime director of amateur scouting with the Minnesota Wild. He joins the Maple Leafs organization as an assistant general manager. And Freddie Hamilton, the brother of current NHLer Dougie Hamilton, we should add, joining the team as chief of staff as well. And it was interesting hearing Elliot Friedman talk about these two hires on the Fan 590 earlier today in Toronto, saying that chief of staff kind of role, he thinks will be one that will start to pop up a little bit more in organizations. So good on the Leafs, especially the Brackett hire, I think is a really good hire. And we're starting to see the new look front office led by Chayka and Sundin in Toronto start to take shape.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think it's hit after hit after hit so far for Toronto's new front office. And, that's somewhat surprising given how we didn't really have the highest of expectations when this hire was made of John Chayka coming in as the general manager. So now all of a sudden you look at the front office and it's John Chayka, obviously. It's Matt Sundin. Obviously, you've got Judd Brackett, in addition to some other names there, Haley Wickenheiser, and also Mark Leach is still there running the drafting. So all of a sudden, you have a lot of interesting names in the front office. And of course, now Freddie Hamilton. And Freddie Hamilton is a bit of an outside of the box one too. And I didn't do a ton of research for this one, but just, kind of what I've read on Twitter throughout the day and whatnot. Freddie Hamilton, obviously the brother of Dougie. So I initially said to you in our group chat, Douglas Hamilton, you are a Toronto Maple Leaf. That would be something if they were able to pull that off.
Yeah, that's a move you'll be making in your Leafs franchise mode for sure.
Yeah, well, by the way, I've been banging that drum, Dougie Hamilton to the Maple Leafs, for over a year now, and it kind of crescendoed when they scratched him for a game, and that was the time for Brad to pounce on it, and he didn't. So I could see that being a perfect fit, maybe a situation where it's you take my problem in Morgan Rielly and we take your problem in Dougie Hamilton. Maybe a bit of a swap can, something can work out there. But yeah, so Freddie Hamilton also has experience in the corporate world after playing hockey. When he finished his pro career, nice. Got his MBA and worked, I think, in venture capital, if I'm remembering correctly. And so, yeah, kind of an outside the box hire. At first glance, it's like, oh, he's just a brother of an NHLer and he had his own pro hockey career. But no, you dig into this guy a little bit more and he seems to be, that kind of buzzword that we've been hearing in Toronto. He's kind of analytically driven, and he's another guy just to round out that front office in that new role of chief of staff, which, sounds like he should be working for the White House, but it's kind of a new up and coming role that a lot of smart teams are getting behind. So yeah, honestly, like I said, hit after hit for Chayka and company so far. I'm liking what I'm seeing. I got to be honest.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you there. And also worth mentioning that the Marlies are on a nice little playoff run right now in the Calder Cup playoffs.
Yes, and I will say don't take too much from that because we saw the Marlies win in 2018, I think it was. I was at the game where they won, which was sweet. And
Garrett Sparks.
A lot of great players on that team. Garrett Sparks was back-to-back AHL goalie of the year. Andreas Johnsson won the MVP that year. Some other good names played on that team. I think Trevor Moore was on that team, and the list goes on. So, but I bring that up to say AHL level success doesn't necessarily translate to the NHL. So just take it with a grain of salt. I will say it's nice to see Easton Cowan getting real minutes with the Marlies, and also Ben Danford is there now, and apparently he's really impressing. So that's really good to see. And final note on the hiring of Judd Brackett. and this kind of relates to the first Core 4 story going back to the Vancouver Canucks. He was a part of the Vancouver Canucks. I believe he was their director of amateur scouting at one point, and he was responsible for the pick of taking Olli Juolevi 5th overall. So that's not fantastic. But as you mentioned, after that goes to Minnesota and has made some pretty good picks there. Like some late first rounders, a guy like Charlie Stramel. I remember I was beating the drum for the Leafs to take him, and he ended up going, I want to say, in and around 20th overall in the first round. He looks like he's going to be a good player. He was fantastic at the World Juniors as a 16-year-old, if you remember. And, some other players, Danila Yurov was a guy that was picked, kind of a later first rounder, dropped because of the Russian factor. So, yeah, like having Judd Brackett as an AGM, as well as still having Mark Leach, who obviously, as most people know, but if you don't, he was basically the architect of the Dallas Stars and, drafted a lot of good players there that they currently have on the roster. Famously, I want to say it was the 2017 or 18 draft where they picked Ottinger, Robertson, and who was the third one? And Heiskanen. Yeah. So was that 2017?
Yep. 2017.
Yeah, that's right. Heiskanen 4th, and then Robertson and Ottinger. So now having both of those guys, the Central Division is so good, and plucking two of those guys from those two, great organizations now, I think you can call them. It's just great. I think the front office for the Leafs is really shaping up nicely.
BetterHelp is the paid partner of this video. The new year is a blank space for you to write a new story. BetterHelp makes it more convenient to get you started. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy more comfortable and convenient. They carefully make sure therapists on the platform are well qualified, and their customer support team is there to help you if you have any questions. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Your next chapter starts today. Get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp online therapy at betterhelp.com/boysinthebooth in paid partnership with BetterHelp. Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with you on that front for sure. A guy who is a great hockey executive, but no longer a part of the Maple Leafs front office, is Brandon Pridham. And his son, Jack, just had an impressive Memorial Cup with the Memorial Cup winning Kitchener Rangers. What a season for them. What a stacked roster. My goodness. And what a season for Jack Pridham. So 90 points in 65 games in the regular season. He was almost a point per game player in the regular OHL playoffs. And then 9 points in 4 games during the Memorial Cup run for the Kitchener Rangers. Pridham gets traded, his rights, that is, to the Tampa Bay Lightning from the Chicago Blackhawks, the team that drafted him. He goes to Tampa for a third-round pick in 2027, and it sounds like Pridham will be joining the University of Denver, where David Carl currently is the head coach. We'll see if he remains there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I think this is a player that had a great season, talented guy, and, it's pretty crowded in terms of young players and up-and-coming prospects in Chicago. So he goes to Tampa, and I think there will be a little more opportunity there. Also, with his teammate, Sam O'Reilly, who was traded to Tampa last offseason. So thoughts on this deal for the Lightning getting Jack Pridham?
Yeah, honestly, the rich get richer. I don't think Pridham has the same sort of pedigree as his teammate in Sam O'Reilly, but still a good young player and, a third rounder. And to just give up a third to get him, I think is tidy work from Julien BriseBois. And like I said off the top, the rich get richer. Like Tampa Bay just finds guys that they're going to be able to plug into their system down the line. Obviously, their prospect pool is not as deep as it once was because of how good they've been over the last decade and trading a bunch of first-round picks and whatnot. But that's how you have to do it, right? You have to find diamonds in the rough. You have to find players on teams who have a wealth and a plethora of prospects and just pluck one out of there. And that's what they've done here. So interesting that Tampa does this again. We'll see how it works out. I don't expect him to obviously be in the NHL next year, but maybe in 2 years you see a combination of both of those guys, him and O'Reilly, playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning in kind of a third line role. I could easily see that happening.
Totally. For a team that, is looking to remain in that contending window, I think it's a good bet. I think it's a nice little single, that Tampa hits here, and I think Pridham's going to end up being a good player. So I like it. And again, Chicago, they can kind of afford to do this because they have so many guys.
Yes, but at the same time, I don't know. Don't you think you could have got a little bit more than a third round pick for him if,
Yeah, maybe a second. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe Tampa doesn't have any seconds to give, really. It wouldn't surprise me.
That's true.
But I'm with you, though. Like, to only have to give up a third from the Tampa side, again, tidy bit of work from Brisebois and company, for sure. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. And it's a good bet, though.
And it's a great bet because Tampa is sneaky getting old. Like, Kucherov is getting up there, Hedman getting up there, obviously missed some time in the playoffs, and it doesn't look good when he's not in the lineup. So yeah, they're sneakily getting old here. And that's what you have to do if you're this management group. You have to supplant your current core with younger players over the next few years to try to keep this window open for as long as possible. And they're doing just that.
One more thing, and I got to tell you, I think the fact that they have O'Reilly there should not go unnoticed as well. Now they've got the two Ranger teammates that just won a Memorial Cup, and O'Reilly looks like a stud, man. And there was some talk after Tampa got knocked out of the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs yet again about how they'd like to add some more center help to take a bit of the weight off of a guy like Brayden Point. And I would not be surprised with the way Sam O'Reilly has played this year if we see him in the NHL as soon as next season with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, maybe. The league's getting younger, so why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, final item here, then I've got an honorable mention as well. Brendan Gallagher, I'm sure you saw this, Chad, very emotional in his locker cleanout interview today with media in Montreal, saying that, this is probably it for him in a Habs uniform after 14 seasons. He's 34 years of age now, going into the last year of his contract. He's got a cap hit of $6.5 million, but it's only about $4 million in salary, I believe, if you go on to Puckpedia. But still, veteran player, long time Montreal Canadian. He's, he was in and out of the lineup, and mostly out of the lineup for the majority of the Habs playoff run. And again, very emotional, talking about how, this is probably the end for him in a Canadiens uniform. So just what do you have to say about Gallagher and what we saw today?
Yeah, obviously it's a bit of a changing of the guard going on in Montreal. You've got guys like Gallagher and Anderson who are kind of at the tail end, I think, of their time in Montreal. And, both really good players in their heyday. And I think Anderson still has it a bit more than Gallagher. But, that's not a knock on Gallagher at all. I think he could definitely continue playing at a reduced cap hit after his deal is up. He has the one more year, as you mentioned, and, try to go chase a cup. Can he change his game at all? Can he become like a Corey Perry? I know that's the guy we always point to, but a guy who can just, elongate his career for as long as possible, making close to league min and be effective in other ways. Gallagher in his prime was not only a scoring threat at all times, but he was able to play solid defensively too. So maybe there's a role for him in a bottom six on a contending team. Maybe it's one of the up and coming teams. Maybe it's an Anaheim or San Jose or a team like that, right? Like, I think Gallagher will find a nice home, but yeah, as he alluded to, not so subtly in his media avail, it's probably his last game ever as a Montreal Canadian. And I think if you're a fan of the Habs, you have mixed feelings about that. On the one hand, Gallagher was a fantastic player for a very long time in Montreal. On the other hand, it's probably time. It's time to move on and continue building around this core in Montreal and find another higher impact player that can kind of supplant the young guys or contribute with the young guys as well. So it's sad. I think Habs fans have mixed emotions about it, but I think it's time as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there, Chad, on that as well. And it's interesting that Gallagher came out and said that this is probably it for him in a Habs uniform when he's got 1 year left on his contract. Like that's easy to say when you're a pending unrestricted free agent, but I didn't realize that he's still got a year left. But I think he can see the writing on the wall, and I think he looks at the guys around him. Like Kent Hughes talked about Ivan Demidov as a core piece of the team, and they're going to have to lock that guy up, and they're going to have to pay some of these guys, and there's just no more room for them. And they would be happy to move off of that cap hit as well to create a little bit more room. You mentioned teams like Anaheim or San Jose, those kind of teams. I wonder about the Vancouver Canucks, and that's been kind of floated out there today as well after this. Gallagher is a Western Canadian guy. I look at a team in Vancouver who is, going into a full-fledged rebuild here, and you're always going to need veterans to help guide your young players. And Gallagher, I think, would be perfect there as well because he's been doing it for years in Montreal, helping to shepherd along these young guys that they have. And Vancouver's core of young players, they're going to need that type of guidance and leadership as well. So I think he would be perfect in a place like that, and given the fact that he's a Western Canadian guy as well, would make a lot of sense for me and where the Canucks are at, and also they would be happy, I think, to take on that cap hit, maybe get an extra pick or two out of it to get to the cap floor, because we don't expect them to be big spenders this offseason as they go into this rebuild, and we'll probably have a good shot at getting a chance to draft Landon Dupont first overall in just over a year from now.
This podcast is sponsored by SeatGeek, the absolute best ticket app out there. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, making it quick and easy to get the best deals to tickets at your favorite sporting event. SeatGeek does this awesome thing where they score each ticket out of 10 based on its value, so you know whether you're getting a good or a bad deal. Last time I got tickets to see the Devils play, I first saw red tickets. I waited it out, monitored the price in-app, and once I saw green, I pulled the trigger. SeatGeek makes it that easy. And here's the best part. SeatGeek has completely hooked us up. Boys in the Booth listeners get $20 off their first purchase on SeatGeek with the promo code BOYSINTHEBOOTH in all caps. Click the link in our description to download the app, and remember to get your discounted tickets using the code BOYSINTHEBOOTH in all caps. Get great seats for a fraction of the cost with SeatGeek.
Yeah, well, they should finish fifth last then instead of dead last if they want to pick first overall, because it didn't work this year. Suck on that, Vancouver.
Oh, gosh. Canucks fans are going to hate you.
Oh, boy. All right. I will say on as we wrap up here, we're talking about the Habs and Gallagher. Did you see Kent Hughes' press conference talking about the Leafs? Like, I just think this is so funny. Like, the Stanley Cup final starts tomorrow. I take it you didn't see it, because
no,
you're not reacting at all.
No.
The Stanley Cup final starts tomorrow, and his Habs just got beat out in sort of embarrassing fashion, but they did make it to the Eastern Conference final, which is a feat in and of itself, being the youngest team in the playoffs
and probably a little ahead of schedule too.
Of course. But in his press conference, he takes a second to dunk on the Maple Leafs. And it's like, can you focus on yourself, please? Can you focus on your team that just got beat out of the playoffs? Like, and the quote was something to the effect of, one playoff series where our best guys aren't scoring isn't indicative of what it's going to be like going forward. Something about that. If you look at the scoring in the playoffs right now, Mitch Marner is at the top of the leaderboard or something. And said something about like it being tough playing in Canada or something. Worry about yourself. That's all I got to say. Like, it just like, how are the Leafs trending right now? They haven't played a game in 2 months and they're trending. Like,
no.
And people say it's the Leaf fans who are talking about it's everybody else. It's everybody else all the time.
Of course, because it's the Leafs and the Leafs get clicks, as we know, and it's fun to dump on the Leafs.
Yeah, well, I just got to say, like, it's not the Leafs fans who are continuing this conversation. It's everybody else all the time. I don't
That's
get
right.
it. Like,
well, anyway. It's because they see the guy who's going to the Stanley Cup final, who used to be a Maple Leaf, of course, and we'll get to that, obviously. Yeah. But
wait, I mean, okay, we'll get to that. I've got a tweet to share. I got to talk about it, but yeah,
all right, we'll get to that. Okay. I've got one honorable mention to wrap up Core 4, and then we'll get moving along here to the Stanley Cup final. It is about the World Hockey Championships, and it was a tough finish for Canada. They come back home from Switzerland without a medal. Upset in the bronze medal game by Norway in overtime. Noah Steen, funny enough, a Tampa Bay Lightning prospect, and we were just talking about the Lightning and Jack Pridham and Sam O'Reilly a few minutes ago.
Yep.
But it's tough that it happened against Canada, but man, really happy for Norway. Like, that's their first medal ever at the World Hockey Championships. And the reaction on the bench, like from the players and the fans, like that was awesome. And I know you've been keeping an eye on Norway a little bit too, because a Maple Leaf prospect has looked pretty good for them in the tournament. And I'm just happy for a country that is producing some pretty good hockey players here, some young hockey players, and they finally win a medal for the first time ever. I think that's awesome. It's just unfortunate that it was at the expense of Team Canada, but pretty cool to see that for Norwegian hockey, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's awesome. And the Nordic countries in general, when it comes to winter sports, typically punch above their weight class. And, obviously Sweden is an absolute powerhouse in hockey. Finland, powerhouse as well.
But
then Denmark and Norway.
Bunch.
Yeah, Denmark and Norway, they're, a little bit behind, and they have been. I think it has to do with population, but they, every once in a while, they breed a pretty good hockey player or, a collection of them. And it was on display here at the World Championship. Tynes Luke Koblar is the player that you were referring to, the Maple Leafs pick, and he ended up with 9 points in 10 games in the tournament. And, he's playing in the Swedish Elite League this year, in the SHL, and he has 14 points in 47 games. He was picked in the second round, 64th overall by the Leafs in 2025. And last pick in the second round, he's essentially a third rounder, but really impressed some people at this tournament. And, all of a sudden things are kind of looking up with some of the prospects in Toronto here. Mark Leach at the helm for the last year, like last draft would have been his first draft, I believe, running the show in Toronto. So, we'll see if that pays dividends sooner rather than later. So good for Koblar and good for the Maple Leaf scouting staff on that one.
Now, I got to bring up something funny that I heard on Overdrive on TSN 1050 with Mike Johnson was on. I don't know if you heard this, but him and the boys were talking about Kolar and sort of the excitement around him among Leaf fans and all of that. Johnson kind of killed it right away.
What'd he say?
Like, he's either going to be a really good player or he's going to be Pierre Engvall, because the way his body looks and everything and his neck and all that, he kind of looks like Engvall. So
if he's going to be Pierre Engvall, he's going to be rich.
But
if he's going to be Engvall, he's going to be absolutely rich. Because Lou Lamoriello will find a way to pay him. And I do see it. I mean, check this out. Check out the photo here. I do see it.
That's a neck, man. Holy.
There's a lot of neck on that boy, for sure. But no, I mean, listen, we're talking prospects here. We're talking world championship. Like, this isn't best on best necessarily. You know, this is Canada's C team that they're playing. And I'm not taking anything away from their win at all, because that's really important for their program. But
for sure,
all I'm saying is, as a Maple Leafs fan, please just don't get too excited about this guy too soon, because, we were very excited about Topi Niemela, and, he won Defenseman of the Tournament at the World Juniors, if not twice, then at least once. But I believe he might have won it twice, 2 years in a row, but it might have just been once. I can't exactly remember, but he put up historic numbers in the Liga in his draft year, and then had a good year after he was drafted, and then came to the Marlies and produced a little bit, but never really found his footing in North America and sort of fizzled out. Might not ever play in the NHL. Same with a bunch of other guys from overseas, right? It's hard to evaluate talent. It's hard to find diamonds in the rough when you're drafting. It's hard to hit on players picked outside of the first round, period, right? So don't get too high on Kolar just because he had one good tournament, but it is encouraging. He looked good.
Definitely. Yes, for sure. Okay, that's a wrap on Core 4 Stories, episode 285 of the pod. And Chad, we will now get into our preview, of the 2026 Stanley Cup Final. It is the Vegas Golden Knights reaching their third Cup Final in just 9 seasons. That's how long they've been a franchise in the National Hockey League as well. That's crazy. Of course, they won it back in 2023. So they're back there after sweeping the Colorado Avalanche in 4 games in the Western Conference Final. I mean, just absolutely shocked at that. Not that they won the series, but just in the fashion in which they did. My goodness. And then against the Carolina Hurricanes team that just absolutely dominated the Montreal Canadiens in that Eastern Conference Final. I mean, I think Montreal was running on fumes after 2 7-game series, and Carolina had their blip in game 1. They got the rust off, and then they just took over after that, and they looked like the Carolina Hurricanes. So they are back in the Stanley Cup Final for the first time since 2006. Rod Brind'Amour has a chance to win the last 2 cups in Hurricanes franchise history. He won it as a player back in 2006, of course, and has a chance to win it this time as a head coach. So how do we want to start this? Do you want me to go into...
I know how. I know how to start.
And our picks first, or... Okay, you know how. All right, go ahead.
Well, I need to get this off my chest because it's eating me alive here. Like, the elephant in the room is Mitch Marner right now, right? Like, the whole hockey world is talking about Mitch Marner, and it could have been Mitch Marner against the Montreal Canadiens, and I wouldn't have watched a single second. Like, I wouldn't have known what to do. I would have been watching curling on TV. I would have been watching darts, and lawn bowling, whatever. But it's the elephant in the room, so it has to be addressed. When the Vegas Golden Knights beat the Colorado Avalanche, Marner was interviewed afterwards in the dressing room, and he was asked, how this compares to his time in Toronto, because everything's about Toronto, as we know. And he said that there were some dark times in Toronto and that this was different. And so, by the way, like dark times, playing for his childhood favorite team, wearing the A, making 11 million bucks, like what could be better than that? Like I don't know. Like maybe score some playoff goals and it wouldn't have been as dark and you would have won more series. But so anyway, Chris Johnston followed up on this, and I don't know if this was asked to him in a scrum or on an off day scrum or whatever, but I'll share the tweet because
sure.
I just think this is insane. Like we've reached a point where it's not even funny. I just don't even know how to act. Chris Johnston tweets, Mitch Marner didn't want to elaborate on his comment about going through dark times earlier in his hockey career, but says he will if the Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup. So he will only elaborate more if they win. What why are you I just don't understand what the point of any of this is. Like, what do you mean you'll like why is he teasing it like a documentary? Like he's going to expose dark times, but only if they win the cup. Like, and someone tweets, you know, I'm crying at the concept of soft launching a trauma dump after winning the cup. Top 3 most entertaining players to watch do media in the league, because every time he's on the screen, he just digs his hole deeper and deeper. Like,
yeah. Oh,
he just needs to stop.
It's a soap opera, you know? And here's what I'll say about Mitch. Like, after Vegas clinched the, you know, their Stanley Cup berth, and Marner gets to be a part of it, obviously, after his time in Toronto. You know, he did do a fist pump to the crowd after and was fired up after and all of that, but I gotta tell you, as a viewer, like, other than that, not much. Like, his interview, just, again, like, it's always going to be this way with Mitch. Like, he just does not do well in front of a microphone. Like, he does not come off well. And it was just, you know, again, just stone cold, no emotion. Like, yeah, well, the job's not finished. It's like, man, I see a guy that even still, and that tweet just shows it for me. It's like, when are you going to ever let things go? And is this you? Is this the people around you? Like, just enjoy this. Be happy. Like, just like, why?
Exactly.
Why, like, why is there a need to say, oh, I'll elaborate more after or if we win? Like, haven't you already done that? Like, we've seen the interviews that he's done with Mark Masters and other people. Like I'm kind of like, let's be done with this, you know?
We interrupt this podcast to tell you about one of our favorite partners, Sign Up Expert. If you're a sports bettor, whether brand new, casual, or hardcore, listen very carefully, because this ad is for you. Guys, line shopping for the best odds matters, and that's why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sports books to maximize their profits. Thankfully, there has never been a better time to get signed up, and we are here to connect you with the best promotions industry-wide. When you use our link at signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth, you can get access to all of the top sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique benefits. Most importantly, all of these sportsbooks have valuable sign-up offers for new users. And when you register through our link, you will automatically receive the top offer at each one, allowing you to start line shopping with an enhanced bankroll. Guys, it's simple. When you use multiple sportsbooks, you ensure that you can always access the best available odds, which is key to successful and profitable sports betting. So, if you want to take advantage of these incredible benefits and support our brand at the same time, please consider signing up for your next sportsbook through our link in the description below, signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth. If you're planning on signing up for a new sportsbook anyways, you might as well use our link and support the boys. So, one more time, that's signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth.
You're going to the Stanley Cup final with your new team. and all you can talk about is the dark times in Toronto. Like, what are you doing? Enjoy yourself. Like, it just, at this point, it's just almost sad. Like, you feel bad for the guy that he can't escape it, but then you can't feel bad for him at the same time because he's just so insufferable and unlikable when he's in front of a camera.
Oh, like, absolutely.
I can't stand it.
I couldn't agree more. And listen, man, like, you know, this is not to take away from his terrific playoff run so far.
Of course.
Like, he has been absolutely lights out. And if Vegas wins the Stanley Cup, he's probably the first choice for the Conn Smythe Trophy, which again would be just a dagger into the hearts of Maple Leaf fans, and yourself included, I know. But I just, again, that has to be the main focus. Like, just enough of this Toronto stuff with him, you know?
100%. I've got one more tweet to share about this just because I thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
So it's a quote of the tweet, and it says, "I'm really not on the side of holding a grudge here, but a sneak previewing a conditional told you so is wild." Which is just like, think about, that's what's happening. It's a conditional told you so.
That's exactly what it is. And like, listen, I think here's what it comes down to. I can understand the hurt of it not working out with your childhood team. 9 seasons and not a lot of success. You know, you only won 2 playoff rounds. Like, I get that. Also, though, you did not perform the way you're performing now. And this organization in Toronto, I mean, like, you got the contract, you got the, like, every advantage you could possibly imagine, you know, like it's
everything.
It's the Maple Leafs. Like, the players there are treated like gold, but it's like, it's just, it's like Ryan Howard in The Office. Like, you know, that scene where he's like, he comes back after, you know, his, he was disgraced as, you know, the youngest, CEO in Dunder Mifflin history or whatever. He got arrested for fraud and all of that. So he comes back, he's doing reception up front, and he's like, you know, I'm keeping a list of everyone who wrongs me. So when I'm back on top, they'll be sorry. And that's what it reminds me of. And it's like,
that's exactly it.
Forget all that garbage. Move on and play in the Stanley Cup final. If I were John Tortorella, I would be telling him, listen, Mitch, we love you. You've had a great playoff run so far, but this is the Stanley Cup final. We're playing the Carolina Hurricanes, who have home ice advantage, by the way. It is not going to be easy. I don't want any more of this Toronto talk in the media. That's what I would be saying. Like, just enough with all of this.
Yeah. He's going to lift the cup, and the first thing he's going to say is, "I told you so, Toronto." Like, he can, you know, won't even enjoy the moment. He'll just be thinking about the haters.
Well, and that's the big thing for me. It's like, you know, like, from Mitch and the people around him, because obviously that plays a huge factor, and we've seen the stories and all of that. Like, there needs to be more of a focus on all the great things that you've done and been given and have achieved, rather than focusing on, like, the dark past. Like, why is that coming up right now? I don't understand it. Anyway, I'm with you. Oh my God, man.
That didn't make any sense. Anyway, I won't say anything about this. This will just be for the people on YouTube, of the picture I've got up on the screen right now. So
that's
but
awful.
I hope you like that one.
Oh my God.
AI is crazy, man. Like this took like I just saw this on Twitter earlier. I think what I've concluded is I have to get off Twitter because there's just bad stuff on there.
Nothing's good. Oh geez. Anyway, okay. Let's get to our cold hard predictions for this Stanley Cup Final Series. And Case is obviously not here. He sent us his prediction. And it's the exact same as mine. So, Chad, I'm going to loop in ours together, kind of explain it sort of from my side, try to get into Casey's brain a little bit and see what he's thinking. I'll do my best there. Well, he'd say the same about being in my brain. So as would you. Yeah. So anyway,
exactly.
But and then so I'll do that, and then we'll get to yours, and then we'll wrap up here. So Casey and I, we both have the Carolina Hurricanes winning this in 7 games. And I guess where I come from with this is I have a theory about the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes here in 2026 remind me a lot of the 2018 Washington Capitals. I mean, what was the narrative around the Capitals? Great team, great regular season team, maybe win a round or two in the playoffs. They could never beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh was their kryptonite. And that year that they won the Cup in 2018, they beat Vegas, by the way. It was the Golden Knights' first year as a franchise. They went all the way to the Stanley Cup final, which was wild. But that year, they beat Pittsburgh. And they celebrated like they had just won the Stanley Cup. And they talked about it afterwards. The Capitals players did. Like, we felt that if we could just get by Crosby and the Penguins, that we were destined to go on a long run. And that's exactly what happened. They ended up winning the Stanley Cup. For me, the narrative around, and for everybody else, what's the narrative been around the Carolina Hurricanes? Well, great team, great playoff team, but they can never win in the Eastern Conference Final. They could never get past Florida or Tampa. Well, this year, there were no Florida, no Tampa. This was their best shot. Like, this was, their best shot in a long time to finally get over that hump. And they finally did it. And they did it in dominating fashion. And so my personal belief is that because the Carolina Hurricanes finally got the Eastern Conference Final proverbial monkey off their back, I think they carry that momentum into the Stanley Cup Final, and I think they win. That's what I'm thinking here.
How many games for both you and Casey?
7. We both said 7. I think this is a long series, at least 6 games. Both teams are structured very well, and I think, this is kind of going into, I think, what Casey would probably say. Structured very well. Defend really well. A couple of Hall of Fame coaches on either side in Tortorella and Brind'Amour. And they just 2 teams that just absolutely smother you. Like they don't deviate away from their game plan and their structure, and they play it to a T. And both rosters are pretty similar, I think, both pretty good back ends. They've both been getting surprising goaltending from a couple of guys who have sort of been revelations through these Stanley Cup playoffs. Carter Hart for the Vegas Golden Knights and Freddie Anderson for the Carolina Hurricanes. By the way, thought it was beautiful, Freddie, the emotion that he showed after Carolina won the Eastern Conference Final against the Hurricanes. Of course, after the passing of Claude Lemieux last week at age 60. Very sad. Just days after bringing out the torch at the Bell Center. And again, just as a side note, just want to say, just be kind, because you never know what others are going through. And there's a guy that looks like he had it all. And days after a great thing that he got to do, he's gone and takes his own life, and that's very sad. And so I love the emotion though that Freddie showed, kind of, paying tribute to him. He was obviously a client of his when Lemieux was an agent. I believe Anderson was his first client. So that was really nice, and I'm kind of rooting for Freddie even more because of that. Anyway, to get back on track, both teams are very similar, and both teams really good, have really good pro scouting departments. Like, I look at the depth on these two rosters, and the guys that they've really hit on that you didn't expect, like for Vegas, it's Carter Hart in net. That was a big bet, especially with all of the other stuff in the background with him, all the Hockey Canada stuff in that. Dylan Coghlan comes in and gets a goal, as a 7th or 8th defenseman. Sort of forgot about him. You look at the playoffs that a guy like Brett Howden has had. Cole Smith gets the game winner in the Western Conference Final against Colorado, and then on the Carolina side, again, just really good pro scouting and identifying guys that have filled roles for them. Mark Jankowski, former first round pick that didn't really live up to that status, but has become a really good, serviceable NHL player. You look at a guy like Jalen Chatfield on the back end, Sean Walker, Keandre Miller. And that's a big one as well. Miller and Walker have been one of the best D pairs these entire playoffs, plus minus wise. So both very similar, but I got to give the edge to Carolina because I compare them to Washington in 2018. I think getting over that proverbial hump, whatever it was, for the Capitals, it was beating Pittsburgh finally. For Carolina, we ask the question every year, can they finally win an Eastern Conference Final? They finally did. I think that's huge for them. I think it'll go a long way into them potentially winning the series. And I think Casey is on board with kind of all the points I've given, and we've both got the Hurricanes in 7 games. Sorry for the rant there, Chad, but that's basically it. Yeah, man.
That's okay. All right. I like the pick. I like Carolina. I'm going to also take Carolina, but in fewer games. I'm going to take them in 5. I think Carolina wins this series in 5 games.
Okay.
They are a wagon. And let's be honest, it has to happen or my brain won't be able to function going forward. I cannot see 93 in gold lifting the cup. Like, it just won't, it won't compute.
But by the way, I mean, how funny is it that I, turn the calendar to June and look who's on the cover? It's Eichel and the Golden Knights. It's like it knew. It knew.
It's a bad omen.
Yeah, it is a bad omen for sure.
It's a bad omen. I don't like that.
And I need that up because I got to see what I'm doing this month. Like, I can't change it or put somebody else up there. It's devastating.
Harp, there is such thing as one of these, a phone that has a calendar in it that you can use as well. Old man. Not everything has to be written down.
I knew you were going to go there.
Yeah. But if you ever forget about what you need to do for the week, just refer to the sticky notes on your fridge as well. Those will always guide you in the right direction. But anyway, reeling it back in here. I liked your point about the pro scouting with these two teams. Obviously, Vegas, I think they might do it the best in the entire league. Yeah. And they're not afraid to make trades to go get the guys that they've pro scouted and value a lot. But Carolina, I feel like underratedly really does that as well. In addition to all the players that they've drafted and developed that are currently in their lineup driving the team offensively and defensively, like Svechnikov, 100%. Aho, Jarvis, like the list goes on, and those are just the big boys up front. But yeah, I think Carolina, I mean, listen, we're starting the Stanley Cup final tomorrow. They've lost 1 game in the playoffs. 1.
12-1.
They've lost a single game.
Vegas is 12-4, which is impressive in its own right, but 12-1, dude. Yeah. They've almost had 3 sweeps to start. And you know what? The playoffs. It's crazy.
I'll venture this far to say, if they didn't sit for 12 days or 13 days or whatever it was between the second and third round, it probably would have been 12-0.
I've heard that elsewhere from out of other people's mouths, and I would agree with that. They were just off for one night, and then they got it back on the tracks, and they were the Carolina Hurricanes again.
Yeah. The reason I picked them in 5 games is because, yes, they're a wagon, but it's the way that they do it. Like, nobody forechecks like Carolina. Nobody skates like Carolina. No one is as deep and as fast and as consistent and as tight structurally as Carolina in all facets of the game. I think they're a better team top to bottom. That showed in the regular season standings. I mean, Vegas had 39 wins, for God's sakes, this season. Like, they did not deserve to be, to have home ice, which they didn't, right? Like, they didn't have home ice, and they don't in the finals here because they only had 39 wins over the season. Now, they made quick work of Colorado, which does scare me a little bit if you're Carolina. But also, Colorado was very banged up, right? Like, McKinnon was banged up. They didn't have Makar for a couple of games. So it wasn't the same team. Carolina, for the most part, is healthy, knock on wood. Mm-hmm. They've got a goaltender in Anderson who's playing out of his mind, and he's motivated, as you mentioned, as well, because of the unfortunate circumstance surrounding Claude Lemieux.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think all things are lining up for Carolina. Everything's coming up Carolina this year. And I just think I would be shocked if they didn't win it. And it sucks that I'm going out on a limb here and I'm picking them in 5 games, but because that, tells me it'll go the other way and it'll probably be Vegas in 4 or 5 games. I'll totally mush them. But I just think when I look at this team top to bottom, they're just better. And I have something quick to share on the screen for you.
Sure.
You can take a look at what I'm talking about here. This is on Money Puck, right? This is the 4 quadrants that they like to categorize teams in. And it's bad, fun, boring, and good. And it's expected goals against on the left-hand side and expected goals for on the bottom. And it creates a little axis here. And in the bottom right corner for good, meaning the team that generates the most expected goals for in the playoffs and the team that generates the fewest expected goals against or gives up the fewest expected goals against in the playoffs, are in this category, in the good category. Both Vegas and Carolina are in the good category, but Carolina is on an island, on its own.
Oh, yeah.
Just right at the tippy top, right in the corner of this category. And that checks out with what we've seen, right? Like, they don't give up high danger chances. They don't give up chances at all. And when they do, Freddie's there to make the saves, or at least he has been throughout these playoffs, and I hope it continues. And they just have the puck the whole time and generate offense at all times, not only through, the possession and low danger, on the perimeter of the zone, but they attack all the time. They throw the puck at the net. They try to bury rebounds. They forecheck you like there's no tomorrow. They recover pucks. They just have it all the time. And I just think all of those factors, plus just the sheer skating ability of Carolina compared to Vegas, that is a bit of a, kind of older, heavier, slower team. And I am generalizing, but they, some of their best players are slow, more cerebral players like Marner and Mark Stone, right? Like, they don't play a fast paced game. So yeah, I just think Carolina is humming on all cylinders right now. And I could see it in 5 games.
Do you like my theory, by the way, my comparison to Washington in 2018 and sort of just getting over that hump, like whatever it was that felt like was their kryptonite? And for Carolina, I think it was the Eastern Conference Final, finally getting over that hump.
I honestly think Tampa Bay could have beaten Carolina. Like, I think Florida, if they were in the playoffs this year with a healthy Barkov, could have beaten Carolina in the conference finals.
But they're not.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
right?
this is Carolina's time.
You gotta take advantage of that. That's what I'm thinking.
And they're going to be back next year, right?
Yes.
Tampa Bay's not going anywhere. Florida, nope. They had a down year, but they're picking whatever it is, 10th overall. They're getting a healthy Barkov back. Like, they're going to figure out goaltending, whether it's Bob or someone else. Like, they're going to be back. They're not going anywhere.
Off season, finally, absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
Toronto's getting better. Ottawa's not going anywhere. Buffalo is right in the mix. Montreal's not going. So, like, it's not going to get any easier. So for Carolina, this is it.
This feels like your time. Absolutely. And it's why I'm kind of rooting for them, man. Like, I look at the Golden Knights and, good for them to get back here. 3 finals in 9 seasons. That's insane. And that's an organization that is just unbelievable. They are so ruthless. They are willing to do whatever it takes to win. And you almost have to admire it a little bit. You really do. But I just think this is Carolina's time, like you said. And looking at the 2 rosters, they're very similar. I think Carolina has the edge. Now, in terms of top-end talent, look, Vegas has the number 1 center in Jack Eichel. They have the number 1 winger in Mitch Marner. Absolutely. But I think collectively, Carolina's got the better team, more speed, more youth there. I mean, look at the impact that guys like Stankoven and Blake are having on these playoffs. Young guys, and you're only seeing that from a few young guys in Vegas because they're a very veteran-heavy team. Like, Pavel Dorofeyev is really the only one I can think of, someone young who they've drafted and is contributing, and he's going to get paid this offseason. My goodness. But that's kind of my thought on Carolina. And again, Keandre Miller, man, like Wayne Gretzky had a great quote about Miller that, he is playing as well as any defenseman I've seen in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that's a pretty nice compliment for a guy who we didn't really know what to expect from after his time in New York. It didn't really work out. And then Carolina gives up, a good package for him to get him.
Basically the offer sheet package, really.
Yes.
It was almost the equivalent, right?
Signs him to a great big long-term contract, but that's why you have a good pro scouting department. And credit to Vegas, they have an excellent one too. So it's 2 teams. Again, it's going back to Florida and how they've built their team. We always hear draft and develop. But if you have a good pro scouting department and you can make good trades and good signings and find guys that just fit your structure and your identity and what it means to be a Hurricane or a Golden Knight, I mean, that's another way to go about it. And these 2 teams have done that to a T. But at the end of the day, I have to give the edge to the Carolina Hurricanes. Again, I think it's their time, like you said.
Yes. And just, again, going back to the pro scouting thing. Yes, I hear you. But also, Carolina, masters of drafting and developing.
No,
so
for sure. Yes.
Yes, they're able to find a guy like Taylor Hall, who was pretty much a throw-in in a deal, right?
Yep.
But
forgot to mention him.
Logan Stankoven to, identify him as the piece that you want coming back in the deal. But also to draft a player like Jackson Blake and have him be so impactful right away, and to hold on to your guys and to sign them to really good contracts like Svechnikov and Aho and Jarvis, who are locked up forever. It's just, the list goes on of amazing things that this team has done. And I got to tell you, the stats nerds, the chart boys are going to be celebrating, and rightfully so, if Carolina is able to get this done, because they've stuck with the process and they've just kind of let things unfurl as they may, right? They haven't overcommitted to player X with great intangibles. They've stuck to the system. They haven't traded at the deadline for guys like Nick Foligno, right? Or and that's not a shot at him, but like famously, that's what the Leafs did instead of getting Taylor Hall a few seasons ago, right? And that was a bad trade at the time. But also like, and I'll share this on the screen with you, just the picks that Carolina still has. And I know it's not the time to be talking about picks, but it just makes me sick. Like they've got their first this year. They've got all of their picks next year, plus an additional third rounder. They've got 2 firsts in 2028. And this is, a lot of this is coming from the Rantanen deal. But, and to just have the cojones to do that in the first place, to acquire Rantanen and then to move off of him because he wasn't going to fit in.
Yeah.
This is a masterclass by Eric Tulsky.
It is. The guy is brilliant, and I don't blame the Nashville Predators at all for asking for permission to talk to him, and the Hurricanes shut that down, and they've moved on to Chris McFarland here with the Colorado Avalanche, who are now out, of course, but no, exactly. And I'm glad you went to the Rantanen thing, because it's not like Carolina hasn't tried things. Like they've taken some big swings. It didn't work out. And then they pivot and make another good deal. And that's the thing. Rather than moping over the fact that it didn't work out with, one of the top players in the league, they pivoted hard and they're like, all right, let's reset here. Let's make a good deal. And they did that. Like Stankoven's 8-year deal at $6 million per doesn't even kick in till next year. And I mean, that's another deal as well that just looks like an absolute bargain, and it hasn't even started yet. And Stankoven looks like a guy that they might as well have drafted. Like he is a Hurricane through and through. So you said it, just an absolute masterclass is what it is.
One more thing that's going to make you sick to your stomach.
All right.
About the Carolina Hurricanes. They have $12 million in cap space next season, and they don't have anybody major to sign. Like, it's a masterclass. It really is.
It really is. So great. They'll be able to add somebody or bring somebody in because guys are going to be looking at this team and like, okay, they got over the Eastern Conference final hump. Maybe they by the time we're into, late June, they're the Stanley Cup champions. I mean, it's whether they win or not, like this is a team that's going to be in this mix for a long time to come yet, for sure. Yeah.
But now is their shot. Now is their time.
They have to take advantage of this as well. But again, you can't underestimate Vegas. They've been there before. They know what it's like. You can't say that Eichel and some of these guys aren't winners, because they are. They've done it. So that's going to be the test. And by the way, Vegas, like to get to this point, and they had less than 40 wins in the regular season. It's pretty remarkable, eh?
It's crazy because Colorado had over 50 wins by more than one goal. Or so what was that? I think it was more than 50 wins by more than one goal, which is like, and something Vegas like only had 39 total on the year.
I know. And let's say it was Montreal, like regardless, it would be home ice advantage for the team in the East.
Yeah.
And I don't think that can be overlooked as well. I thought the Chicklets boys came out with something funny today. Did you see what it was? They threw out the idea that they should have Bruce Cassidy do the horn, like
the siren.
Yeah, the siren to get everybody pumped up for game.
God,
that's hilarious.
Well, if he's still under contract somehow, if they're not letting him talk to other teams, then make him do something.
There's just so many. There's been so much great stuff out there, like that's entertaining. It's drama. Like We're living in a bit of a soap opera age here for the NHL. It feels like these last couple of weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like apparently there's a documentary releasing about Mitch Marner and his dark days in Toronto. So I don't like. I'm sick of the soap opera, if I'm being completely honest.
Well, like, let's throw that in the garbage, and it's more about like the Bruce Cassidy, Kelly McCrimmon stuff, saying Edmonton leaked it, and all of that. Yeah.
Yes, there is, but yeah. Anyway, we just need
fun times, man.
Carolina, we need them to wrap it up here quick.
Gosh, we try to come on here and not be biased, and well, of course we are to our own teams that we're fans of.
Speak for yourself. I mean, I let my bias out every once in a while,
No, I know, but boy, oh boy, we're on the Hurricanes train here. It certainly feels like.
It's just tough not to be. Like, they're just so good. And it's hard to bet against Vegas because they've done it. But, I mean, it just feels like everything is coming up Carolina right now. And I said that about Montreal too, but I also picked Carolina in the last round. So, I mean, I've been on them. It feels like they're due, man. Like, they're just too good.
Exactly. And it's not only the fact that they couldn't win an Eastern Conference final for the longest time, but also like their last cup win was 20 years ago. It was in 2006. So they're due. And Vegas, like, I mean, again, respect them absolutely, but they've had their time. It's Carolina's time.
Let's hope so.
Maybe the title of this episode. It's Carolina's time.
I don't mind that. I wasn't asking for notes, but I don't mind it. All right, let's wrap up.
I'll leave that with you. Food for thought. I know. I'm not in your creative department. Sorry. All right, man. Fun episode. Sorry that Case couldn't join us, but that's okay. He had a pretty good reason for missing this one. But Chad, good to jump on with you and do a little Core 4 for the first time in a while and preview our 2026 Stanley Cup Final that gets going Tuesday night from the Lenovo Center. There we go, in Raleigh, North Carolina. Puck drop at 8 p.m. Eastern. Hurricanes, Golden Knights. It's going to be awesome. And enjoy the finals, and we'll check back in with you next week. Thanks for the support. As always, this has been episode 285 of the Boys in the Booth podcast, proud partner of iPlay Hockey. Thanks for listening, and take care. Bye-bye.